This sanctuary, this building has been all too quiet the past 2 years. I remember the days when we would fill this space with people singing and praying and sharing moments of hope together as a community. I remember the children playing and the shuffling of feet, and above all, the many voices coming together as one. An empty sanctuary may have a sense of peace and calm, but without the voices, without the people, the room is often quiet. But it's never fully dark. Even in an empty sanctuary, there's always the Ner Tamid, the eternal light glowing dimly above the ark. Through the silent times and through all the movement and change in our lives and the life of this community, the Ner Tamid remains, like a silent friend who is always there, delicately and calmly guiding us through it all. As we make our way through the story of Exodus this week, we're reminded of the powerful ways that light has kept our lives and our community strong. This week we encounter the final of the 10 plagues, locusts, darkness, and the death of the firstborn. Each of these plagues works to motivate Pharaoh to let the Israelites free. And even as his heart is hardened, through each plague, Pharaoh must nevertheless watch his people suffer through each of them. Yet it is the darkness that really takes hold of the Egyptians. And it's what eventually leads up to the final and the most devastating of the plagues, the death of the firstborn. This darkness, according to our text, is not just a lack of light, but a purely overwhelming darkness, a physical, spiritual, and emotional darkness which takes hold of the Egyptians like no other kind of suffering. This was a thick darkness, a darkness that could be touched. In this darkness, as we read, people could not see one another, and for 3 days no one could get up from where they were. But that also somehow all of the Israelites enjoyed light in their dwellings. Our tradition teaches us that the Egyptians were not just experiencing physical darkness, but the deepest of spiritual darkness, the darkness of depression, or of being separated from their people, and the darkness of communal pain. Some have said that in these short 3 days, they realized the true horror of what they'd been going through with the plagues, or even that they had begun to recognize the ways that their lives depended on the enslavement of others. In this thickest of darkness, the Egyptians couldn't move. They lost track of time and place, and those people made strong under the rule of Pharaoh, felt all alone. Rashi, the great Torah commentator, while not silent about the other plagues, asks the reason only for the darkness. He said, "Why did God bring darkness upon them? This is a thick darkness that confuses all the other senses and makes human interaction, and even worse for Rashi, tshuva, repentance, impossible." Without the ability to get up, without the ability to see or hear one another, there's no longer the possibility for relationship and community. And from this viewpoint of Jews, it's an unbearable kind of suffering. As the commentators hint at, the Egyptians may have been sitting in their houses, unable to not only get up, but also not knowing whether there was anyone left in the world at all. This was a darkness of solitude, and with nowhere else to turn and their people all apart, everything started to fall apart. Of course, we know that each cycle of day and night includes darkness, and it's no coincidence that it's during the night that most of us often sleep, shutting our eyes to the world around us and unconsciously delving within our own thoughts and dreams. The Talmud, in fact, tells us that sleep is 1/60th of death, that it's a time when our physical bodies and our spiritual selves shut down. But the Talmud also tells us what happens when we wake up and see that first morning light. Birchot HaShachar, the morning prayers, are recited at dawn. And how do we know when dawn is? Not when the sun rises, but also, according to the Talmud, when a person can recognize the face of a chaver, a friend. Only when we can see other people and recognize them for the ways that they're connected with us does the darkness begin to fade away. And only then can we offer blessings. These have been tough times. And in our community, in every Jewish community, and all around the world, as the darkness settles on this earth, we gather together for Shabbat, to bless the joys of life, to take a moment to let go of the challenges, and above all, recognize each other. In the midst of the darkness, we each week light Shabbat candles and gather that light reflected on each other's faces. And then, guided by this light, we wish each other a good Shabbos as we make our way into the experience of Shabbat. As it says in the Torah, "And the Israelites enjoyed light in their dwellings as the darkness descended on Egypt." We too continue to enjoy light through all the joys and the suffering taking place around us. The simple greeting of Shabbat peace is a recognition of the relationships and a reminder to the people whom we greet and to ourselves that we need each other and that we are a community of individuals waiting and needing to connect and bring light to each other's lives.